The Ukraine-Russia war has now sucked up a country over 3,000 miles away. Yes, there is now talk of China getting involved in the Ukraine conflict. But under what role? Would it be as Russia's special friend, triggering a new global war? That is unlikely. China has been playing a balancing act since Russia invaded Ukraine back in 2022. Back then, Xi Jinping and Putin talked about a special friendship. Russia wanted Ukraine and China wanted Taiwan. The world was worried, but as it turned out, China was less battle axe and more keyboard warrior. Instead of invading Taiwan straight away or helping out Russia with Ukraine, China started calling for peace instead. It has helped out Russia with non-military help and dual-use equipment, such as rocket fuel, parts for rockets, and well wishes. But ultimately, China wanted to preserve its position as becoming one of the largest global economies in the world. And to do that, it needed to avoid the sanctions that the US and Europe were putting on Russia. China also called for peace in Ukraine by presenting its own peace plan, which nobody cared for. So the question is, why would Chinese troops now enter Ukraine? The US is trying, and so far failing, to do a peace deal with Russia, and part of that means putting peacekeeper troops into Ukraine after the deal to make sure the war doesn't restart. There's a problem. Under Donald Trump, the US does not want US troops in Ukraine. The US wants to withdraw troops from global affairs as part of its America First agenda. Instead, Donald Trump wants European troops in Ukraine. But the problem is that Putin doesn't want NATO troops in Ukraine, and any of the big players in Europe are NATO. The UK has tried to channel its inner Churchill by finding a group of global friends to go into Ukraine as peacekeepers after a deal has been done. Russia says no, but France's leader Macron says, hey Russia, you don't get to decide. Ukraine's a sovereign, independent country and it can host whatever troops it wants. Still, Russia says this is a red line, so what to do? But now China has said, has anyone considered me? By putting Chinese peacekeepers on the border between Ukraine and Russia, that could actually help with peace. Russia would be too frightened to upset China, as China has been one of its biggest benefactors during the war. Europe wouldn't really get much of a choice, and Donald Trump might just say, look, that's the art of the deal, put Chinese troops in Ukraine. China would also get to play the mediator role it so desperately wants, spreading its influence across the world further. But it also has problems. Could we trust China to make sure that Russia doesn't go over the border once those troops are installed? And likewise, would the USA really be happy with allowing China to expand its influence on a European scale? At the moment, this is just talk as China weighs up its options. But so far, this could be the only way.